I love these interactions that Jesus has with the Jews, the Judeans in John's gospel, where they ask these questions that there's such fun, dramatic irony. Are you greater than our father Abraham? Yes. You think you're greater than the prophets? Yes. It's just good. Okay, I don't want to look at the gospel, though, this morning. I want to direct our attention back to the first reading that we have from Genesis, where we heard the very first line, when Abram prostrated himself, God spoke to him. I couldn't even get past that first line when I was praying through these scriptures for today. When Abram prostrated himself, God spoke to him. I very much doubt that many of you or the average Catholic have often or ever assumed the posture of prostration in prayer. For all of our Catholic physicality in our worship, because we are very physical, right? We stand, we sit, we kneel, we have processions, there's smells, bells, incense, there's tastes and sights, there's so much physicality in our worship. But one of the things that's not common in our Latin Rite worship is prostration. Now, if you were a Byzantine Catholic, that's a different story. But as Latin Rite Catholics, we don't have a lot of prostration. One, because it's just awkward. It'd be awkward to have just bodies laying around all over the place. But two, it's a difficult posture. It's a difficult posture. What are you doing when you're laying prostrate? You are laying completely flat on the ground with your hands like beneath your forehead, or maybe even sometimes directly out to the side in a cruciform pattern. It's an ancient posture of prayer, and you see it all over the scriptures, but it's not really a posture of prayer that gets taken up into common liturgical practice. I mean, I'll admit that it would be, if I were to walk into the church, early in the morning or late at night, if I saw someone like laying prostrate right on the ground, I probably wouldn't be thinking, oh, look at them praying. I'd probably be thinking, there's a dead body in our church. You should call the cops. It's one of the postures that you assume during the ordination rite, though. For priests and deacons, it's a posture that you take on during the Litany of the Saints, and it's an amazing experience. I'll never forget it. This time of year, as we get closer and closer to spring, I'm drawn back in my memory to those weeks and days leading up to ordination and what that was like. May 21st, 2016, my classmates and I laying flat on the marble floor of St. John's Cathedral in Cleveland, and I remember thinking, while laying on the floor, in between the tears and the snot, all of it, just recognizing how cold and how hard the marble was. It's not a place of comfort. I mean, I'd be surprised if you could take a nap there. But it's a posture of becoming completely vulnerable. You're completely vulnerable. You're laying there, your neck is exposed, your field of vision is reduced, your range of motion is shortened, you are unable to really see what's going on around you. It's this posture of powerlessness. I also remember feeling and thinking when I was laying there on the floor, this is the thought that occurred to me. Like, there's just nothing else that I could do with my body that would speak more to my desire to completely surrender myself to God. Like, there's just not another bodily posture. There's just nothing else that you could do physically to embody the desire to be totally surrendered to God, completely humbled before Him. It's the posture of the creature before the Creator. It's the one who recognizes, I am completely dependent on you. Like that whole you are God and I am not thing, right? It's a posture that says, I recognize that I cannot control you. I cannot manipulate you. I can't force you to do anything. I just simply place myself before you, like knowing and trusting that you are good and worthy of everything I am and everything that I possess. It's a posture of trust. And that right there, that's why it's when Abram prostrated himself, it's then that God spoke to him. It wasn't because Abram was like being stubborn and he finally submitted to the whims of a capricious deity whose fragile ego said, bow down before me, then I'll talk to you. No, it's because Abram was finally in the posture that allowed his heart to hear the Lord. A posture of humility, a posture of surrender, right? Only a heart that's prostrate before me, he's saying, is capacitated to hear and receive my love. Look, if you want to put yourself in the way of the flood of mercy that comes from his heart, you've got to go down. You've got to lower yourself, right? Mercy flows like a river, always downhill looking for the lowest place. If you want to put yourself in the way of the flood, go down, is the idea. Surrender. I want to end here this morning with a beautiful prayer from St. Charles de Foucauld. Maybe some of you know this. It's his prayer of abandonment. Charles de Foucauld, he was eventually martyred by, I think it was Bedouin shepherds. I could be wrong. No offense to the Bedouins if that's wrong. But he was eventually martyred. But this is a man who every day of his life abandoned himself into God's hands, laid his heart prostrate before God. And he said this, "Father, I abandon myself into your hands. Do with me what you will. Whatever you may do, I thank you. I am ready for all. I accept all. Let only your will be done in me and in all your creatures. I wish no more than this, O Lord. Into your hands I commend my soul. I offer it to you with all the love of my heart, for I love you, Lord, and so need to give myself, to surrender myself into your hands without reserve and with boundless confidence, for you are my Father. Amen." Filled with confidence in our loving Father who keeps his promises, we bring him our petitions.